Geralt of Rivia is considered the most dangerous Witcher alive, but he's barely in the top 3. Today, I'm ranking the 10 deadliest Witchers to ever walk the continent, from king-slaying assassins to literal dragon slayers. Starting with a cat school killer who made murdering an entire village look justified, Gaetan. Gaetan is a Witcher from the cat school that appears in a side quest in Witcher 3. Before running into Geralt and Velen, Gaetan learns that the traveling home of the cat school, the Din Marv caravan, was overrun by soldiers with many of the Witchers there being killed. He's a wanted man on the run, which means you have to be cunning and dangerous just to survive another day. Gaetan finds himself in Velen and takes on dangerous contracts in order to earn a living. One of these contracts involved killing Aleshin, one of the most dangerous creatures in the Witcher universe, that was terrorizing the village of Honorton. Gaetan kills the monster, but instead of receiving payment, he walks into a trap. The village alderman tosses him 12 crown. 12. That's literally the price of a soda. I've paid more for a bad sandwich. So yeah, I'd be mad too. Gaetan realizes he was set up because a crew of villagers armed with pitchforks try to kill him. Even though pitchforks seem to be kryptonite for Witchers, Gaetan dodges the attack. Which, honestly, good for him. Dying to a farm tool after killing a Leshen would be embarrassing. That's like surviving a war and then tripping on a banana peel. He then takes his revenge by killing the entire village. Well, he kills everybody, except for a little girl who reminds him of his little sister, proving that even mass murderers have a soft spot. Am I right? Geralt finds Gaetan not too far from the village of slaughtered townspeople. Forgetting the trail of bodies, Geralt hears out the fellow Witcher's side of things. If Geralt chooses to spare him, he can see Gaetan's hideout, which holds an impressive selection of monster trophies. If Geralt fights him, Gaetan uses bombs and his cat school, cunning to try and defeat him, but ultimately dies. Either way, slaughtering an entire village, surviving alone in the wild, and successfully killing many deadly monsters earns Gaetan a right to be on our list of deadliest Witchers. Murdering villages is brutal, but at least Gaetan had a reason. Our next Witcher killed for royalty, but didn't care about politics. Letho of Gullet. The infamous assassin of kings. Letho of Gullet is a Witcher from the Viper School. We're first introduced to Letho as he's slicing the throat of King Foltest of Temeria during the siege of La Valette Castle. Even though Geralt doesn't recognize him at first, thanks Amnesia, they have met before. It turns out that they're actually friends. Personally, I've never run into my friend cutting off a king's head, but I guess when your bestie is Geralt of Rivia, casual regicide is just part of the friendship. Must be nice. In the forests of Angren, Geralt stumbles upon Letho near death after being struck with a Dracolizard's tail. Geralt was already in pursuit of the Wild Hunt, who had taken Yennefer at the time. You know, just a normal Tuesday for Geralt. Rescue the girlfriend, fight interdimensional ghost riders, maybe grab lunch. Being a Viper School Witcher, Letho of Gullet is intimately familiar with the workings of the Wild Hunt. For more info on that, check out my video on every Witcher school. After Geralt helps him, Letho joins Geralt in tracking down the Wild Hunt. They catch up to the Wild Hunt, but can't defeat them in battle. To end the stalemate, Geralt sacrifices himself to save Yennefer. Letho and his group of Viper School Witchers honor Geralt's wishes by taking Yennefer, who now also has amnesia. Really original CD Projekt Red, but in the process end up being captured by Nilfgaard. In order to survive, Letho attempts to go on a mutter spree of the Northern Kingdom's VIPs and earn his spot on this list of deadliest Witchers. He freezes King Demoven's boat while it's in the open sea and kills everybody on board, including the mage Abelard of Haga. He kills Demoven by cutting off his head in some weird form of signature move, and disappears until his reunion with Geralt at La Valette Castle. Letho not only looks dangerous, he is. If Geralt chooses to spare him in Witcher 2, he goes on to survive fighting the Wild Hunt twice. If Geralt kills him instead, it's a very close battle. From killing kings, mages, or fighting spectral warriors, Letho of Gullet is one of the deadliest Witchers out there. Slaying kings is one thing, but what about killing something that's not supposed to be killed in the first place? George of Kagan. George, an ordinary name for an extraordinary Witcher. George of Kagan is a legendary figure from the Griffin School. He is so badass. His nickname is Dragonslayer. Usually, dragons are considered off-limits to Witchers. Even though they're large, can fly, and breathe fire, they are highly intelligent. Killing another sentient being would be considered inhumane, even for mutants like Witchers. George, who is likely based on Saint George, got this nickname by, you guessed it, killing a dragon. While on the path in Velen, George heard rumors of a dragon prowling the Crookback Hills of the region. Apparently, the villagers in the region had taken shelter in nearby elven catacombs. I guess there were a bunch of nerdy elves here because they had left all their manuscripts behind, which quickly got used as insulation to keep the villagers warm. George, being the knight he was as a Griffin School Witcher, was devastated at seeing the loss of precious elven knowledge and vowed to kill this dragon. Turns out, the dragon in question was a green dragon, so it was probably a bit bigger than a horse. Not the biggest dragon I've ever seen, but a horse-sized fire-breathing lizard is still pretty dangerous. George was able to kill the dragon, but was mortally wounded as a result. Instead of helping him, the man taking care of him poisoned him to try and sell his Witcher diagrams. Pretty poor payment for slaying a dragon. The School of the Wolf has a mural of George to celebrate his accomplishment, but also as a reminder to not trust people too much. Either way, being a literal dragon slayer earns George a spot on this list. 3 down, 7 to go. And trust me, we're just getting started. Our next Witcher didn't kill dragons, and he definitely wasn't a knight, but his actions created the Cat School as we know it. Let's talk about Gezras of Leda. Gezras' origins explain his actions later on. He was born a half-elf, who are generally frowned upon in the Witcher world. His foster father hated him and eventually sold him to the mages of Stygia Castle, the original home of the Cat School. In the Cat School, the mages would try experimental mutations on boys to try and make them even more emotionless in the hopes of creating more ruthless killers. That's like taking a Ferrari and thinking, how do I make this go even faster? It's already fast enough. The problem was, sometimes the experiments would go wrong, and the young Witchers would become hyper-emotional and unstable. Instead of, helping them, the mages would dissect these regex bodies to hope to learn more. Gezras was one of these rejects, and he woke up barely alive, in a pile of dissected corpses of his fellow Witcher candidates. Not the best way to wake up in the mornings if you want to be a happy little Witcher. He crawled out of the pile and freed the remaining Witchers set to be experimented on. These stray cats were taken in by local elves, and in return, the strays fought for elven liberation, likely killing many humans for the cause. Having never forgotten what happened to them, Gezras and his crew of unstable Witchers returned to Castle Stygia one night and murdered the sorcerers in their sleep. After all the warm, fuzzy feelings they got from getting revenge, Gezras and the stray cats formed a new cat school, one that had no home base but traveled in the Dine Marv caravan, collecting monster bounties or assassination contracts and taking in anybody, elf, woman, or rejected mutant from other Witcher schools. His ruthlessness and thirst for revenge, as well as killing several powerful sorcerers, puts Gezras on this list of Deadliest Witchers. Gezras founded a school of chaos, but the Bear School? That was founded on betrayal. Our next Witcher is Arnegad, the founder of the School of the Bear. Arnegad was huge, even for a Witcher. While he was already a respected Witcher in the original Order of Witchers, he never cared for the bond of brotherhood, or the knightly values imposed by the Order. He preferred to be alone, and didn't trust others. It was this distrust that led to him turning on a fellow Witcher named Rhys. Rhys had negotiated a contract to kill a Chort, a scary monster with a not-so-scary name. Chorts are basically demon goats that run on all fours and ram their opponents using immense strength. So basically, they're just regular goats, but with a worse PR team. Anyways, Arnegad also shows up in the area and wants the contract for himself. Me personally, I would see another Witcher already take the contract and move on, but Arnegad, he wanted the kill for himself, so he decides to kill Rhys and cuts him from shoulder to waist. Seems logical enough. Rhys barely survived by setting the Chort on Arnegad as a distraction. Knowing that he would be punished, and always one to take the initiative, Arnegad rounded up a posse of other Witchers and attacked Castle Morgrave, the original home of the Witchers. A bloody battle took place, Witcher killing Witcher. The Order managed to win and drive Arnegad and his crew out to form the first Witcher school, the School of the Bear. In the freezing Amel Mountain, Arnegad taught Witchers how to use brute strength and aggression to defeat their enemies, and he didn't care about all the knightly stuff that got in the way. Not much more is known about Arnegad, but having killed multiple Witchers himself, and doubtless many monsters, earns his spot on the list of Deadliest Witchers. We've covered founders and legends, but now we're getting into Witchers you actually know, starting with Geralt's brother-in-arms, Eskel. Eskel of the Wolf School, and one of Geralt's best friends, if he actually has any, is under the radar, but one of the most dangerous Witchers around. Don't be fooled by his chill nature. Eskel is more than effective at his job. Geralt and Eskel went through their training and trials together, so Eskel has had the same amount of time to develop his skills and body of work. Or should I say bodies? Eskel not only walks the walk as a Witcher, he looks the part. His face is covered in a hideous, semicircular scar that was given to him by his own unstable child of surprise. I bet he really wished he had found Ciri instead. The child, a princess named Deidre, came to Eskel after he defeated a whole gang of werebubs, who don't sound scary, but trust me, you wouldn't want to fight a horde of furry dwarves with superhuman strength. Eskel has fought and killed basilisks, hunted zeugles, and scared away harpies. In The Witcher 1, Eskel helps defend Kaer Morhen Morin from Azar-Javid, and the mysterious Salamandra, a criminal group looking to steal the Witcher's mutagen. He even helps to defeat their Frightener, a praying mantis-looking monster thought to be invincible. Some of the most dangerous monsters Eskel has killed include a manticore, which he beheaded by himself, and a catachan, an ancient vampire which he outwitted by loading up an alchemist with vodka and fistek and used her as bait. The vampire sunk his fangs into the poor lady, but got drunk himself, making him an easy target for Eskel's blade. Using a drunk alchemist as vampire bait is either brilliant or insane. Probably both. That's Eskel for you. Above all that, Eskel has fought and survived the Wild Hunt. He single-handedly fought Caranthir, lieutenant to Eredin, king of the Wild Hunt. Eskel almost defeated Caranthir until he decided to cheat and use portals, requiring somebody who shows up later in this list to jump in and save him. Geralt's honorary brother-in-arms, Eskel is one of the Wolf's School most cunning and experienced warriors. His loyalty and service to the continent has earned him a spot on the list of Deadliest Witchers. We're halfway through, and if you're wondering when I'm getting to Geralt, don't worry, he's coming, but you might be surprised where he lands. Eskel learned from the best, and the best, he's next. Vesemir, the last master of Kaer Morhen. At the time of Witcher 3, Vesemir is one of the oldest remaining Witchers alive. He's also the leader of the Wolf School, being one of the few survivors of the pogrom in the 12th century. Fearing and hating the mysterious mutants, an angry horde of villagers and mages attacked Kaer Morhen and killed almost all of the Witchers there. Vesemir then went on to raise the few remaining Witchers, like a certain white-haired one, and teach them everything he knew about the art of sword fighting and monster killing. Apart from leading one of the most legendary Witcher schools, Vesemir has had a long history of killing monsters. In the games, we see him fighting Salamandra and their Frightener, ghouls and fiends, the Griffin of White Orchard, and even the Wild Hunt. In the Battle of Kaer Morhen, Vesemir takes on Imlerith, general of the Wild Hunt, and wounds him in the leg. He even strikes Eredin, king of the hunt, so that he can save Ciri. While not a lot of details exist about Vesemir's monster-slaying past, he no doubt has had his fair share of battles and stories, earning him his place on this list. His vast experience served to teach future Witchers, which brings us to a Witcher that we know quite well, Geralt of Rivia. Number 3. Yeah, Geralt's only at number 3. The protagonist of the entire series, the White Wolf himself, isn't even top 2. But before you rage quit, let me explain why this actually makes sense. Even before we meet Geralt in the games, he's picked up a really sweet-sounding nickname, the Butcher of Blaviken. Geralt gets this name after the sorcerer Stregobor asks him to kill a cursed princess named Renfri, who has apparently gone on a murder spree. Geralt meets Renfri in town and sees she has a crew of killers with her. Renfri has her own side to the story and says that Stregobor is convinced that she was born under a black sun, think eclipse, and is destined to go insane. She asks Geralt to help her kill Stregobor to save her own life and those of other falsely accused girls. Rather than get involved, Geralt tries to stay neutral, until he finds out that Renfri and her gang are planning on taking townspeople hostage to force Stregobor to come out of his tower. Refusing to back down, Geralt has to cut Renfri and her gang down in cold blood, shocking the townsfolk of Blaviken and earning him his nickname. Some of Geralt's other famous exploits include killing Astriga, a ghoul created from the cursed daughter of King Foltest. Killing her required the use of potions to see in the dark and keep up with her insane speed. Geralt barely made it out of this encounter alive, but survived to carry on his quest. Before the games, by far the most powerful enemy that Geralt faced was the sorcerer Vilgefort. Vilgefortz of Roggeveen was the most powerful sorcerer on the continent, manipulating both the Emperor of Nilfgaard as well as the Lodge of Sorceresses. Hell-bent on capturing Ciri and controlling her power, Vilgefortz defeats Geralt once, almost killing him, and sets up a base at Castle Stygia. Geralt and his friends go on a quest for most of the books, until finally they find Vilgefortz again, who has Yennefer captured. This time, it takes all of Geralt's strength, as well as Yennefer's, and the help of a vampire named Regis, to finally take him down and save Ciri. Geralt's quest to save Ciri has him kill countless monsters, elves, humans, and sorcerers. In the games, he kills an unimaginable number more. I know what you're thinking. Geralt at number 3, who could possibly be deadlier than the Butcher of Blaviken himself? Well, there are exactly 2 beings who surpass him. And the first one? She's not even technically a Witcher. Next up is Ciri, the Child Surprise, the Lady of Space and Time, the most powerful being to ever wield a silver sword. And yeah, she never went through the trials, but try telling her she's not a Witcher. On top of that, she spends some time in the company of the Rats after she becomes separated from Yennefer in the Thand coup. With the Rats, a group of ragtag mercenaries, Ciri comes into her own as a killer. Isn't it so sweet when they grow up? The Rats teach her to rob, cheat, and kill if she has to, by any means necessary. This works out great for them until a vicious bounty killer named Leo Bonhart goes after them. them. Leo is hired by multiple people to kill Ciri, but keeps her for himself and forces her to fight in an arena like Gladiator. After escaping, Ciri is able to reunite with Geralt and Yennefer for a time, before being transported to the home of the Wild Hunt. If you've played The Witcher 3, you know what happens afterwards when she returns to the world of The Witcher and Geralt finds her again. Even though Ciri is a woman and was never mutated, she was trained at Kaer Morhen by Vesemir, Geralt, Eskel, Cohen, and Lambert. She learned the Witcher trade and has killed monsters. What makes her the deadliest is not her sword abilities, but destiny itself. Her elder blood gives her insane control over magic and the ability to travel space and time. This ability to bend reality around her makes her the most powerful being around her, and clearly the most powerful person to wield a silver sword. Ciri's at the top. She has to be, unless there's one more Witcher we haven't considered. There's somebody else that deserves getting mentioned, and he's not even a Witcher, he's a lawyer. Codringer. Okay, this is where half of you click off and the other half leave angry comments. The deadliest Witcher on the continent isn't a Witcher at all. He's a lawyer. And before you call me insane, let me explain why this actually makes sense. Geralt travels to a town named Dorian to meet with famous lawyers, Codringer and Fenn. They only practice law on paper and are actually capable of doing all kinds of things, like making witnesses for a trial take his testimony back, or an enemy disappear, or a wife's lover suddenly get injured. Pretty much anything for the right price. They carried a lot of influence in the underworld, and were even approached by spies for rulers like King Foltest. Their services proved to be invaluable to Geralt when he finds information on Ciri's hunter, the sorcerer Rience, convinces Geralt to send out a decoy to get Ciri to get captured, and even Ciri's connection to the Elder Blood and her immense power. The reason I have them on this list of Witchers is because of a key piece of dialogue Codringer tells an angry Geralt. Codringer calls himself and Geralt colleagues, because while Geralt is an old-fashioned Witcher, Codringer is a modern one. The monsters are disappearing, but modern monsters, the humankind, are plenty. Codringer deals with these real monsters for a fee, just like Geralt does. Codringer saves people from monsters and monstrous difficulties, and unlike Geralt, his monsters won't ever disappear. Because of the context of the world at this time, because Geralt faces an existential crisis of being a Witcher in a world with less and less monsters, I thought Codringer's words were relevant and made him a very effective, very deadly modern Witcher. So yeah, Codringer is my #1 modern Witcher. If you want to see more, make sure to click the other video on screen now.